I would like to introduce Donna Sharman, who is the patient, as well as her husband, Andy Sharman. I just want to say, she had her stroke in November of 2013. Did I get the year right? And it was right around Remembrance Day, and she was enrolled into ESCAPE. And I don't know, I remember when ESCAPE was going on, but all the stroke neurologists would cross their fingers and hope it would go to the treatment arm, the endovascular arm, and I know far too often it would go to medical management arm, and it was quite upsetting. And Donna was very lucky because it did go to the treatment arm, and she had the treatment, and I'll let her tell the story. So with that, I'll hand the mic over to Donna and Andy.
Well, quite simply, I would not be here today if it was not for endovascular treatment, quite simply. Or if I was here, I don't believe I would be able to be up here speaking. So I think that's, in a nutshell, exactly what I feel. As Noreen said, my ischemic stroke was on November 9th, 2013. That morning, we had a leisurely breakfast, and I was in the kitchen, and then I found myself on the floor, and my rock, my husband of 39 years, came to my rescue, and I think that was the next critical step. So I'm going to let him take it from here because he's the one that can talk about how the treatment happened and what was going next, because I really don't recall a lot of those pieces. I'll come back and speak later about my next piece.
Well, this is the first time that we've had a chance to speak together about our experience, and I do a lot of public speaking, but I never do it from notes, so I'm trying to do it from notes, and I also now have to wear these glasses, so please give me an inch or two here. I am not a medical person. I'm just a businessman. Much of what you talk about and what you do, I just don't understand it. It goes right over my head. But I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and 2 years ago I became a support person for a stroke survivor. We've been asked today to talk about our experience with the endovascular surgery. And to me, it's very simple. All of you are miracle workers. That's the only word I could use, miracle workers. Your surgery saves lives, and it vastly improves the lives of those people that you save. And you're the difference between us being here today and me being a widower. So we're very, very grateful. But because you save lives, you also produce more support people like me, and we're not the easiest people to deal with. I'd like to share parts of my story and a couple of observations to tell you why. And try to view this through the eyes of a non-medical person because it's extremely confusing. That entire week was like a big gray cloud that I didn't understand, but what a trip to go through. It was just amazing. So, as Donna said, it was a beautiful Saturday morning. For absolutely no reason, she had a massive stroke. I found her on the floor about 5 minutes later, and that alone is a hell of a shock to go through. Immediately I realized it was a stroke. We have the blessing of having a son who's a fireman and a son-in-law who was a policeman at that time, so they had trained us pretty well. I knew it was a stroke, called 911. We had the most amazing EMS team show up. The paramedics were out of this world. Next thing I know, we're on a massive ambulance ride to Foothills Hospital. And at this point, I just want to make a comment. I don't understand why we would ask ambulance drivers to go slower, but that's just an outside observer. When we got to Foothills, we were met in the hallway by Dr. Hill, which was our first step in a long relationship with Dr. Hill. Donna was taken into emergency. I snuck in and stood on the side. Interesting to say that no one threw me out. And I thought, if I just stay quiet, they'll leave me in the corner here and I can watch what's going on. As we came in, there was this swarm of people, and I always refer to them as the swarm. Now I realize that they're the stroke team. And as Donna was wheeled in, this swarm of people just descended on her, and I had no idea what they were doing, except that there was no panic, there was no cause for alarm. There was a team of extremely efficient people who knew what to do with this patient. At the same time, though, the paramedics came in, the three paramedics that had picked us up came in and kind of stood around me, and I thought, well, that's a little bit strange. And then this little girl started pulling on young lady started pulling on my arm and saying, we have to call in your family. And I was busy watching this. I was busy trying to swarm. And she kept pulling on my arm. We have to call in your family. I finally said to her, I don't want to. I don't have time right now. I'm trying to watch. So she said, give me a number. I'll call your family in. And she would not stop. So I gave her the number of our son-in-law that was the policeman because they're trained to handle these things, and she went off and did her thing calling in the family. At the same time, I was watching this forum, and I could tell by their faces that things weren't going very well. Donna was the strangest shade of gray I've ever seen. Her eyes had lost all meaning and focus, and you could just tell by their actions that we were in a pretty tough situation. And as I said, I've never seen that gray. I've never seen a person pass away. You're medical, I'm not. I knew we were in trouble. Dr. Hill came over to me and started talking about this experimental surgery, much of which, again, I didn't understand. And he had a whole raft of papers that I had to sign off. And what it basically boiled down to was this. We have this experimental surgery. We have nothing to lose by trying it. We can't do it if you don't sign. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought, go ahead and get it done. Later, we joked with each other that he delayed it, trying to get me to understand the papers, and I delayed it because I didn't sign fast enough. The end result was I got it signed, and away we went to surgery. The funny part about the surgery, though, is Dr. Hill, with his need for speed, he pushed the stretcher down to surgery. So, and that is a true story. When Donna went into surgery, I was pretty well convinced she wasn't coming out. You could tell by her color, her eyes, everybody's actions said, you know, we're going to try, but don't hold your breath. I sat in this little waiting room outside, and all of a sudden, three Foothills orderlies, the men that wear the red outfits, came and sat with me and started to talk to me about their experiences. And I could tell by what they were telling, they were trying to prepare me for what they thought was going to happen. They've seen it before, they knew, and one of the fellas had just lost his father 3 or 4 months before. So I'm sitting there, and all of this is going on. All of a sudden, Dr. Hill comes bouncing out of the surgery and says, things went pretty good. About, I don't know how long later, they wheeled Donna out, and we all kind of laugh about it because Donna had these bright red socks on that were sticking out from under the sheet. And all of her color had come back. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. In that time, some of the family had got there, and when they saw Donna come out with all this color, they kind of looked at me like, what was this big issue? I mean, look how good she looks. And what I found out later is when you pull that clot out, of course, they get full blood flow back. And she was also sharp as a tack. She had a little bit of an argument with a nurse about the rest of the day because Donna had to babysit that night, and the nurse said, you're not going anywhere. And my wife is Scottish, you don't argue with Donna. So from day one, right from that very first day, Donna also did something that amazed me. For some reason, she knew she had to get something going for her own recovery and started doing all kinds of little things to make her brain start to work again. And we've learned over the years that we've been going to Ward 100, every Tuesday we go up to visit, how important that is. So that really impressed me. The first week on Ward 100 for me was just an incredibly horrible experience. We went from theoretically planning a funeral to each day trying to figure out how much of my wife we were going to be left with. Did I have to sell a house? Did I have to get rid of the staircase? What do I do for a car? And there was nobody there to talk to me because I was a support person. When Dr. Hill came in, he would always say hello, he would always help me. But the rest of the time, I sat a week there wondering, what am I going to do? Then on Thursday, they decided that she should go home. So I thought, well, how can this be? 4 days ago, we were going to lose her. Now she's going home. What am I going to do with her at home? But we were lucky, and we got involved in the early release program, which is an amazing program, and helped us with a transition to home. For the first, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, we had someone with Donna 24 hours a day. After that, Donna has always been on her own, back to her independent self. I do want to take 1 second here before I go to the next section and thank Dr. Hill, Demchuk, Van Dyke, Wong, the entire team at Foothills, miracle workers. That's all I can say. The treatment we receive from everybody, from Dr. Hill right down to that friend of ours now that mops the floor, and I can't remember his name this morning, has been amazing. So I just can't say enough. For anybody who wants to complain about Alberta Health Services, just come and see me and I'll tell you what I think of Alberta Health Services. Really. I mentioned I wanted to share with you a couple of observations. As I said, I'm a support person now. Our lives have never been the same, and that's okay. In many ways, they're better now. We also go up every Tuesday and volunteer on the ward as peer supporters for people in the first week of the stroke. And there's 2 observations I would like to pass on to you. Number 1 is I think that there's a tremendous opportunity and value in what you people call patient engagement. I think the patient themselves can make a big difference to their recovery if they know what to do in the first week. The second thing I see is a huge potential value for you in us support people. We are there 24 hours a day the first week. Please give us something to do that we can help this person recover. So I'd like to challenge you with those two things. Come up with something that the stroke survivor and the support person could do in that first week rather than just sit there and watch that silly TV. We could make a huge difference. We're there anyway. In closing, I want to say one thing. I'm very, very proud of what my wife has done with this. What she's turned this stroke into, to me, is an amazing story, from near death to now being part of the medical community. But I have to thank all of you, first of all, for saving her life, but also for giving her the opportunity to be involved with these things. I am extremely proud of Alberta's medical system. Thank you.
So one of the first things I recall when this is taking place, I can hear people talking around me. I can hear them talking about that they're going to put the computers maybe chosen you, that to undergo this treatment or whatever. And I remember that. So I'm kind of fading in and out. I can recall part of the ambulance ride to the hospital too, because I remember saying, is that a fire truck with us? And they said, no, that's us. I'm like, okay, that's us, all right. So my next recollection after hearing people all around me doing all these things, I remember what I feel, the only way I can explain is my brain came out my nose. I guess that was when the wires were coming out or whatever, but that's what it felt like. That's the only way I can describe. My brains came out my nose. So, and you think, well, that's okay, because look where it ended up. So then I remember, just as Andy says, when I come to and I'm back in recovery, I'm thinking, well, what time is it? And they said, well, you're going to be here for weeks. I'm like, weeks? What am I going to be doing here for weeks? I was there, I think, 4.5 to 5 days, and I was home. And it's true, that early release program or early discharge program really did help immensely. In hospital, though, I recall just thinking, what am I going to do here? And I remember being told so my stroke happened Saturday. On Sunday, I'm talking to them, and they're saying, physio's going to come on Tuesday. Tuesday felt like light years away, 100 years away. It's like Tuesday. So all night long, all I could think of doing is doing math. I did as much math in my head as I could think of. I started to memorize the doctor's names and the nurses' names. And I thought, just keep thinking about those names, keep memorizing them. I started to recall all my phone numbers first, all the people in my life that I could think about their phone number, and my passwords. I thought, my passwords, my computer, can you imagine being locked out of all those things? So I just started to memorize as much as I could and do math as frequently as I could. So just doing things on the ward was so important to me. So being home at 5 days, pardon me. The other part, I remember getting the name of the study. I felt I had the biggest gem in my hands. I'm like, they've given me the name of the study, the escape study. So here I am with the phone under the covers here, looking this up. I'm like, look at this, I've got this. I felt like I had just the most amazing piece. And about day 3, I think it is, Rene Van Dyke came to the bed, Dr. Van Dyke came to my bed, and he comes walking up to my bed and says, I just want to shake your hand. And I'm like, I just want to kiss your feet. Like, my gosh. So I'm so thankful to the Foothills team. I remember another thing about Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill came to me and said, and I hadn't been out of bed yet, and he said, so you want to get out of bed? And I said, yes. I was like, that was the biggest thing I wanted to do. He said, okay, you know what? Come on, let's go. You and I'll go. Go, let's go. Come on. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to get out of bed. And I think that gave us some confidence that I could walk and I could manage to the bathroom, and I was doing okay. I had left neglect and things at first, but, eventually every 24 hours, it became so much better. Oh my gosh, so that was wonderful just getting out. On another visit, I remember Dr. Hill pointed to the Inspires program on the wall and said, you might want to think about getting involved in that. And I'm like, oh, not do stroke. No, it's good. I'm good. I already volunteer here at the Tom Baker Center, and I'm in I work as a baby cuddler in the NICU. I was doing both of those. Sure enough, 6 months later, what I find myself doing, putting those Tom Baker on hold, putting my baby cuddler on hold, And this is where I felt I needed to be on the Inspires program. So I'm so thankful to Lori Beaver, who started the program as a peer supporter, very different than a volunteer, and being able to talk to those people on the Ward 100 every week. So how is my life now? Well, I'm back caring for 4 grandchildren, soon to be 5. There's going to be 5 in July. It's so much fun to be back caring for them. In April, I have a couple of days, I think there's 4 days where I'm on my own with them again, and we have sleepovers. We have, that's restored, been back to, has been restored. We started fiddle lessons. We went to Nova Scotia a couple of years ago, loved the Kayleys there, just loved it, and just needed to pick up the fiddle and start, so we both have taken some introductory lessons. Boy, it's hard. Still looking at maybe another session through Chinook Learning here coming soon. Traveling, love to travel. We do quite a bit of that. And tomorrow I graduate as an intern with the PACER program. So PACER is Patient and Community Engagement Research. So this past year, it was a 12-month program working as an intern, doing qualitative research. And so it's all about the patient experience. And we're going to share our findings tomorrow about our study. And our study was about the first few days in hospital as a stroke survivor. So that's been exciting. I've mentioned that we work on the Inspires program. I'm also a patient advisor on the Cardiovascular Health and Stroke, SCN, so that's great. So I strongly, strongly believe in research as a result of this situation. If it had not been for research, I would not be here, or I would not be here doing what I'm doing. It's the expertise of the whole team, and if without that knowledge and research, this just would not have been possible. So my life is full, and it's filled with a variety of purposes, and I am just so thankful that we need to keep pushing work and research. Research regarding stroke. Because, every week we're on the ward, we see the people up there in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. And still there's that myth out there that it's only people that are older that have stroke. But we see it each week, and it's pretty shocking and very sad at times to see that people are at home and they're not getting to the help as quickly as can be. And we talk to people on the ward, and they'll say, well, yeah, I just went back to bed. And our study shows a lot of this too. Recognizing the symptoms is a huge problem still. Even with as much work as being done, FAST and everything that's out there, there's still a huge thing about that whole part about getting to help. So if you've got your supporter there, you get to help pretty quickly, but it's the people that are on their own and that often don't. So I'm thankful to be up here speaking to all of you. I thank each and every one of you, and hope this has helped a little bit in any way. Thank you.